Hello and welcome to the heart of the matter. Now, in today's society, there are many vices that plague a lot of us that we prefer not to talk about. Today, we are talking to Diipo Ayo-Adeusi, actor, stylist, presenter, producer, about his struggles with sexuality and getting to the point where he could be vulnerable and true about his experiences. You don't want to miss this. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Diipo.
Thank you. It feels very weird.
That's really weird. I'm just like, should you be thanking me or should I be thanking you?
I feel like, can we swap seats?
Or can we just act like we're just gisting?
Yeah, we can. We can legit just act.
I mean, quite frankly, we can't really come and be acting like
they don't know.
Or that you don't know.
That I don't. Well, let me act like I don't know.
He's like, oh my God,
well, no, I've been
it's so
here
wonderful to be here.
What is this place?
Such a lovely set. What do you think of our new set?
What do you guys do here? Oh.
Don't you think it's lovely?
Oh, yeah.
You're never playing along. Look at you. All right. So obviously, we're on the other side today because there's a lot about you that you literally recently, you exploded it. If you were just a little bit more of a celeb, you would have broken the internet.
I'm telling you, just a little bit more.
Just a little bit more.
Hi.
You almost got there.
Almost. It's okay.
It's okay.
We're getting there.
We'll manage it. We'll manage it. Okay. But what are we talking about? We're talking about how you took to the gram and talked about your struggles with sexuality.
Yes.
And that's not the interesting part. Even though
Oh, it's not? Okay.
I mean, it's interesting.
Okay.
But like, we're over it. No. No, that's not the part that we want to focus on. What we want to focus on is how you then turn that story into not just you coming to say, okay, this is what I've been struggling with, but you then taking that and then turning it into a ministry and kind of helping other people. Because no one would look at you, Mr. Fashion, Mr. Stylist, Mr. Actor, and then think that on the back of that, you are actually trying to help people with the struggles that you went through.
Yeah.
So obviously there's a lot.
There's so much. I mean, but then that's the whole essence of it.
Right.
Is that there's all these people who have a lot going on for them.
Yeah.
But that's just the cover, you know. There's the real issues behind it, and that's the whole point of it, is to rip off the Band-Aid and to unmask from this, you know, exterior, this glamorous exterior that we always project to the world, that projects to society, and to give the honest, real, you know, selves that we are. Because there are a lot of people who are struggling with this thing, and I think that's why I couldn't have it just, or rather, it's not really me.
Yeah.
God couldn't just have it end at, I've told this story.
Right.
It's a story, great, and there are people who learned a few lessons from the story, but what are the practical steps? I literally had people send messages saying, okay, we've heard the story, but how can we actually get help?
Right.
So that was what birthed the ministry, is like, how can we actually help other people find this liberation as well?
Okay. Diipo, how deep are we going on this?
Deep as you want to go?
Yeah?
Deep as you want to go.
Brace yourself. Sip that water. Let it go down.
Yeah, let's do
Fortify
it.
yourself. Okay, cool. I want to start from the beginning.
Okay.
As far back as you growing up and what you believe triggered the sexual experimentation.
Right.
And how that has come to look like a normal thing with other people. So, because there will be many people who I'm sure would tell you, you know, you choose and you can do whatever you want and whatever. So, let's start from growing up. What was that like for you?
Growing up was bittersweet. It's sweet in that, you know, I have memories of having parents who cared. Parents who, your mother who was very invested in the little things and in instilling the little values. And I had a father who was intent on providing for so much so that he was deliberate about how many children he had. So, you know, having just one sibling, period, was
like, let this pocket money go
let
round.
the money go round.
Let's have money
You
for
know?
pampers
Yes.
and school fees.
Let's have money for school fees.
Right.
And he had a vision because he himself didn't have the most glamorous growing up experience. You know, he grew up in the village. He didn't go to university, he went to Polytechnic. So, and he wanted his children to not just go to university, but have the best of education. So we went outside the country and we got education and all that stuff. So it was very intentional. And I really appreciated that about my parents. And they were very strong with those aspects of parenting. At the age of 4, I was molested, right, by someone I don't remember what they look like because your memory can suppress information when it's gone through a trauma. So that happened at the age of 4. And when one thing, I think of everything else, when you talk about how did it happen, choice versus nature, you know, is same-sex attraction natural, is it a choice? I think that it's a choice, but it's not always a choice that's made for someone. You know, sometimes it's different factors that, and like that with thrust. So when I was growing up, like I said, people didn't understand what I was. So the only way they understood it was in these, like, you have a thing about human beings putting people in boxes. We have to make sense of it. So it was that, oh, if he's effeminate and he acts like this and he gestures like this and he walks like this, then he has to be this. And when you have enough people telling you the same thing, it reinforces a mindset and a pattern in your mind that you soon start to act out because you start to believe it. So that's why when people say, God forbid, you know, we've now romanticized it, but what that actually is meant for is that you don't want your spirit to start to absorb the things that people are saying about you that are not true. So I started to get, you know, all these things and I started to absorb them, and at the age of 14 became sexually active and that kind of spiraled.
So something interesting that you said is, actually, let me ask it as a question. So are you saying that you believe that most people, or at least for you, it was the suggestions, the external suggestions that led to the experimentation? It wasn't like you on your own.
Yeah, because more so than anything else, I mean, as a child, you don't really know, you don't know anything to be like defined. There's nothing that's defined for you. You're just living life when you're really young. But you start to define things based on what the society and the culture starts to provide you with. So, I mean, I even dare say that it wasn't really even, I mean, yes, there's a molestation part of it that added to the whole same-sex attraction thing. But it was more so about the reinforcement because that could have easily been shaken off. But the reinforcement, you know.
And that's so interesting because even cutting across, because obviously we're talking about same-sex attraction in this case, but for other people, like they say some people are just naturally promiscuous, or some people are just natural, and it's like, what you're saying is very powerful because it means that what you hear often enough becomes what you take as your identity because it's what people say to you that you start to examine, okay, wait, if they say I'm stupid and I've heard I'm stupid 100 times, maybe I'm stupid, let me just take that stupid.
I mean, there has to be some item of truth in that. You start to believe the hype. You know, literally, that's what it is. There's a hype of a lie. And you start to believe the hype of the lie.
And I guess the Bible says faith comes by hearing. So you can believe the wrong thing if you hear it often enough. Wow. Okay, do you know what? Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back and we'll talk about the Unashamed and all of the stuff that has been birthed out of it. We'll be right back.
Sex is amazing.
A lot of roommates in Nigeria forming marriage.
In porn, you can have sex for 3 hours straight. It is not possible.
How? Are you a machine?
But in porn is possible.
This guy is my friend. He never do before. Take him. Go open his eyes.
So this is a myth. People think that only men are addicted to porn. It's a bodadash.
3 victims of abuse: the abuser, the abused, and the witness.
He actually tried to touch me, but I held his hand and he beat the living daylight out of me.
Things happen in this world that will blow your mind, and you're like, God, if you're so good, then why did this thing happen?
A major turnaround was in Jesus 3.
Okay.
When I was molested by a senior.
It was at the point where, yes, this was what was going to happen. You were going to have sex. All I said was, I can't do this.
When I was in college, my mom messaged myself and my brother, and she said to us, God revealed to me that one of you is masturbating. Who is it? It was crazy.
Yes, Mom. And welcome back to the Heart of the Matter. We're still chatting with Diipo Ayo-Adeusi. That was weird again.
I know. It's just like my name.
It's like any one of us could be any. Let's not do that today. Okay, so we've been talking about basically the powerful thing from the last segment that I'm holding onto as a tagline is the fact that we get our identity sometimes from what we hear. So we don't actually check ourselves enough to say, is this really me? Do I want this? Because if you hear it often enough, especially when you're young and you haven't made up your mind about anything, you just believe it.
Very impressionable.
And and I think it cuts across to even like the macho men thing. Like if somebody tells you you have to hold your shoulders up a certain way, and if they say it often enough, then that's what you want to model. But for you, it was different.
Very different.
Okay.
Very different.
What was it like growing up with a brother who was different?
Ooh. There wasn't much comparison. I wouldn't say there was much comparison. I would say that I think we didn't understand each other very well. So it takes a while to kind of understand why someone is a bit different from what you see.
Right.
So I think he didn't get it, he didn't get it initially, and it caused a lot of friction between us.
Yeah.
But he was also kind of, he's always had a very protective element.
Right.
Very protective element. So I would say bittersweet. Because there's a protective element, but at the same time, because he didn't understand, there's some things that happened, and that shouldn't have.
But was he aware of the abuse?
No. I don't know if he actually still is.
Oh, snap.
Yeah. Maybe he has watched one of these things, now he knows.
Right, but you guys didn't get to the point where you could
No, I don't know. We haven't like one-on-one discussed it.
Right.
I think the only person in my family is my mom. My mom knows everything.
Right. So do you think that perhaps being able to talk about it with him, do you think that could have helped in any way?
Back then?
Yeah.
I didn't even know. I didn't remember that this happened.
Not even at like 4, but like even like your challenges and all the struggles up until like when you were 14.
I didn't know that. I don't think it may. I don't know that it might have helped because I couldn't even articulate it to myself.
That this
is what is happening with me. Yeah.
Right. And I find that even that not knowing, I think that sometimes we assume that people know when they don't know, and they're just literally repeating.
I was just kind of like living, like I'm trying to figure out like why are things messy.
Right.
I couldn't even tell that things were messy. You can't just put a handle on it.
On what's going on, right? Okay, so let's go to the Instagram live video that broke the internet. Henceforth, that's what we're
calling it.
Yes. All right. How did you make the decision to do that?
I think it was a long, honestly, it's good because it was a long time coming. I'd known from when I was about 17 that I was going to tell the story eventually one day. I just didn't know when. But I knew that there was things are happening. But every year of my life, it was like, just know, Sha, you're getting closer. You're getting closer. And I was like, hey, when is it going to happen? And how is it going to happen? And what will,
Yeah.
But to make it more concise, the trigger came from someone else who was a part of the Ignite Fellowship, who had shared her own story on how she'd gone through, I think, abortion and sexual addictions and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so that day, something just lit up on the inside of me that if this person can be so open with it, and I think I just naturally taken to a point where I was bored and I was tired of myself.
Right.
I was like, it just feels like I can't keep doing this. So I just decided that day that was the day I was going to make a commitment to God and to myself to sort of like, make a transition and make a difference in my reality.
Okay, like literally like 5 questions just popped up at the same time. So I have to take it one by one.
Yeah.
Okay, in sharing it, because I know you shared with me that the fact that you're aware, you come to the awareness of that, the fact that it's wrong, and you come to the awareness that you want to do something about it, to the point where you want to then share the story. How do we put this? How have you navigated your challenges after that? Because you shared how sometimes people think you come out, you admit to vulnerability, and then it's almost as if you become a mascot for strength. Meanwhile, you're still going through your struggles. How do you navigate knowing what this journey is for you now and your moments of weakness?
I'm still navigating it. Up till this very moment, I'm still navigating it. It's hard. It is very hard. Anything that has to do with transforming the mind is much harder than transforming just, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it was a lot of like controversy. Controversy is very exciting. Very exciting when it comes out. Everybody's like buzzing about it. Oh my God, did you see? Did you hear? And everybody's like, oh my God, but then give it a week and see. everything just dies down. Then you are faced with your reality
Right.
of what next.
Right.
Now I've done it. I'm
Right.
back to reality. The noise is over. The
Right.
buzz is gone. What do I do now?
Right.
And what I found is a lot of friends didn't, there was initial, but it just like kind of like floated away.
Right.
There's only a few people that were still checking in, like, how you doing? Are you still okay? How's it going? How can we help? Blah, blah, blah. So I'm still going through the process. It's difficult, but I have to keep myself accountable.
Yeah.
I have to remind myself of certain things every so often. I have to remind myself not to be in certain places and not to do certain
Right,
things.
let's talk about that. Things you had to do, like Instagram.
I had to clean out a lot of things. Clean a lot of things out. Clean out physically, like around you, your environment, your friends, the kinds of places you can be. At least in the beginning, there's a lot of places that you can, conversations that you can have. I mean, it's a lot of like housekeeping.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then how do you navigate that? Because you build real friendships with people who don't understand what this is.
What I had to do was make sure that the friends that I now had were people that had the same ideals and values that I did.
Right.
Because the thing is, there are a lot of very good people out there in the world
Yeah.
that believe in, live and let live.
Yeah.
That's not going to help me.
Yeah,
That's
right.
great, especially when you talk about things like homophobia.
Right.
Because it's important that you don't, because homophobia is as much as a sin. You know.
Right.
So it's very important, and it's a great sort of like mindset to have, live and let live.
Right.
It helps people deal with homophobia to know that, accepted.
Yeah.
But it doesn't help me on
Right.
my own journey, because
Right.
I don't need that.
Right.
What I need is to believe in
Yeah.
in my values.
Yeah.
And that's not everybody, and that's fine that it's not everybody,
Yeah.
but I need people who do to be around me.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about two things.
Yeah.
One, the fact that in your talk, because you also talked about this with Omiola, there is, it's almost like you because you both were on the same Instagram live chat, and there was a conversation going on, and it's almost like one key takeaway was all sexual perversions come from the same place. The expression of it is what's different. So, for instance, a girl who was raped, who is then promiscuous. A guy who was molested, who is also promiscuous in a different way. But then somebody else, then, it goes into same-sex attraction. But somebody else, it goes into sexual addiction. So, regardless of which variation of it is appearing, it is all kind of from the same trigger point. And can you explain that? Because I know that the live and let live mentality is contradictory to that, because it makes some look like some are bad and some are good. Meanwhile, everything is from the same trigger. And then that thing about homophobia being just as bad. Can you kind of...
Okay, so I'll start with everything comes from the same place.
Yeah.
And it's all the same thing in that you have an identity.
Yeah.
I believe, and again, like I say, I don't force beliefs on people, but I will definitely stand for what I believe in.
Right, yes.
So what I believe is that everybody has a God identity.
Right.
Right? Coming from the Creator, you have a God identity.
Right.
However, that identity can be exchanged when you don't realize it. So in those impressionable years, in those early years, and that's why you find that a lot of molestation, a lot of abuse happens early on in a child's life when they don't have the will to fight back or to say no. And if you think about it that way, whether it's that somebody projects something onto you in your impressionable years or whatever, the point is that you have an identity that's been exchanged. So there is there's a person that you are, that you don't even realize that you are yet.
Right.
And then in those years when you don't realize that that's who you are, that's when this exchange occurs. And you have this new identity that's been enforced on you, either by somebody molesting or by somebody, projecting, by, verbally. But in terms of homophobia, I think it's very important. People don't talk about that. Or rather, it's more the same-sex community that talks about that.
Yes.
It's not the Christian community that talks about that. Or whoever doesn't believe in same-sex. It's as much a sin.
Can you explain that? Because Christians and other religions, we're just afraid that if we don't have, if we accept it, then it's like you're collecting it too, or you're endorsing it. Can you explain how it's different?
So God, at the core of who He is love. God loves.
Yeah.
You look through the different accounts in the Bible, you look through the different Bible stories of when Jesus was on earth, you see that He was with all kinds of different people.
Right.
But there was a way that He navigated Himself through those conversations and through those interactions.
Right.
And if the standard of Christian living is literally Jesus, not what your church tells you, what your pastor tells you, or the doctrines of the religion, then you ought to follow that model. And that means that you must be able to sit with everybody, because at the end of the day, even thinking about it just in a world perspective, there's so much more to a person than just their sexuality. You know? And so you're telling me that if I want to do interior decor, oh no, okay, let's not use those stereotypes. If I want to build a really gorgeous house, like an architect, an engineer, and the person happens to be same-sex attracted, I will not now employ them anymore because do you understand what it's silly? It's very silly.
But it does happen.
But it does happen, and that's a problem. People need to not be addressed first by that. You have a duty of love, and you have a duty of because the thing is, there are other things that we, people who are straight do that are just sins as well. Like I say, same-sex attraction is not a different sin. It's a louder sin because it deals with more lifestyle traits that we can visibly see, as opposed to the other sins that you might not be able to tell. If a person lies, if a person steals, I might not be able to tell just by looking at them. You see what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, if you think about it that way, that you are really no better than anybody else, what right do we have to say that, I can't deal with you because you're same-sex attracted? Yeah.
All right, so clearly, number one, as friends, we can have these gists kind of endlessly. But for the sake of the show, we kind of have to round up. But I want you to talk about how people who are afraid, who are wondering, so for instance, we're talking about sexuality, right? So that's something that's kind of strong. People are just like, oh my God. But then it translates. So for instance, I was having a conversation with another friend who was looking on Instagram at some celebrities and was saying, if I congratulate this celebrity, am I endorsing her lifestyle because she dresses a certain way? Or for instance, when Linda Ikeji got pregnant, there was this huge argument about should Christians be congratulating her on having her baby? Now that was a huge, you laugh, but it was a huge thing because it's like the baby is out of wedlock.
Yeah.
So which sin is worse? If we congratulate her for her baby, then we're endorsing the fact that she has sex also. That means she's having sex. How can she be having sex? Do you know what I mean? And on the other hand, it's like, well, she's already committed this sin. She now has a baby. The baby is a blessing. Will you now say, abandon the baby? Do you know what I mean? Like, how do you navigate that? Because the truth is, it's really tough for somebody who has said, so for instance, let's say I was in the world and I was having the, let's say, like, if I was, for instance, also struggling with premarital sex, just all over the place, but then I'm trying hard to be more intentional about walking the streets are narrow, perhaps I'm moving to celibacy, I may feel like if I congratulate somebody like that, I am not really done. I'm not really done, or I haven't taken a stand, or I'm not really real. It's like, so for instance, if you like somebody's page and their pictures are half naked, how do you really navigate that? Because the truth is, it's beyond, there's a real fear that people have that if they are friends with somebody who is struggling with something, it would either bring out their own struggles or they would just collect
it back.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I say to people, you have to make a commitment, you have to take a stand. And you just have to be at peace with the fact that in this world, there is no one person who everybody is going to accept everything they believe in. That's just what it is. So this is what I'm trying to say. If I decide today that I don't want to do something anymore, I should be prepared that there's a whole bunch of people who are going to negate that belief.
Right.
But should it shake my own belief? Right. No. I need to be respectful of what other people believe. So I've had interactions with people all the time who say, oh, I don't buy this. I'm like, that's wonderful. And that's good for you. But here's what I definitely buy. But it won't stop me from interacting with you as a normal human being. Right. Do you see what I'm saying?
But how do you do that? How do you not then say, oh my God, if I'm around this person, they would think, like, how do you actually, like, a practical step?
Okay. What I would say is have these conversations openly. Is a practical step. Have these conversations openly so that there is a clear understanding. So have it with the, don't try to hide it. You see what I'm saying? So I've had conversations with people because I'm in the fashion industry, and I have conversations with people all the time, and I say, you know what? And some people approach me and say, oh, we saw your live. What's that about? And I'm like, yeah, it's about exactly what you saw.
Yeah.
You know, and that way there's like, okay, now we know what it's about.
Yeah.
But then after that, I'm like, oh, hey, how you doing? Okay, so how is that collection? Oh,
Right.
how is that? How can we work together? And you realize, oh, it seems like
He didn't suddenly
he
become
hasn't
a
changed,
judgmental.
you know, he hasn't now stayed saying, no, he doesn't. So they understand that, okay, so this is his stance, but
Right.
he's still, and it just creates a very smooth stream. So that's what I would say to people, is
Right.
practical step.
Yeah.
Continue your normal activities, but make a clear stand. Say it. Actually verbalize it. Don't
Right.
try to dance around the issue.
Right.
Don't shy away from it. Verbalize it, stand for it, but still act normal. Go about your normal activities. You can't stop making money.
Yeah. True that. All right, let's take a quick break and we'll be right back. Welcome back to the Heart of the Matter. We have been talking to Diipo Ayo-Adeusi, and we're trying to explore, struggles with sexuality and then making the transition, the mindset, dealing with homophobia and other prejudices, really, in general. Diipo, we can literally keep talking.
We can.
Yeah, but what I want us to talk about now is let's go into Unashamed.
Okay.
Right.
My baby.
So now, is it a conference? Is it a TV show? Is it a ministry? Is it...
What is Unashamed?
What is Unashamed?
Unashamed actually stems from Men in Pink. Men in Pink is the actual ministry, and it's exactly
Right.
what it sounds like.
Right.
You know, the idea that men can't wear pink, so Men in Pink is actually, the contradiction.
Right.
And it's beyond just sexuality, it's sexual issues, it's issues of emotional issues,
Right.
depression, suicide, rape, all kinds of things. But
So Men in Pink ministry
is a ministry.
that deals with people
Yes, that deals with people who have issues with sexuality, sexual struggles, depression, suicide, any kind of emotional struggles as well.
Okay.
And the expression of that is in Unashamed. So Unashamed
Right.
is an online series.
Right.
Unashamed, hopefully by the grace of God, will become a conference, will become sort of like a workshop, will become
Right.
a devotional study guide as well.
Right, okay.
So Unashamed is that idea that, we are vulnerable, we're open, and we're able to say these things. But
Right.
the immediate thing I'm working on right now is an online series.
Right.
But it's going to be on YouTube, and it's
Right.
going to be literally a mix of professionals who deal with sort of emotional struggles, so psychotherapists and people like that.
Right.
And also people who have walked their own journeys of sexual struggles and rape and all kinds of things, come to talk about how they've navigated it
Yeah.
and are still working through it.
So just to be clear, because just in case it seems as if we've danced around it, what you're talking about is people who are struggling with sexual, all kinds of sexual struggles, and who have made a commitment to actually overcome it and
Yes,
actually change
and
it.
actually change
So they're not
it.
just saying this is just how I am,
Yes,
accept me. They're
yes.
saying this is how I am, accept me, but also encourage me as I am trying to change.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Exactly.
That's powerful.
Spot on.
Powerful. I love it. Yay. Thanks,
Yes.
Diipo.
Thank you,
I feel like you can
Amati.
even sign out say, at this juncture.
No, you sign out.
But
It's okay.
thank you so much. So generous of you.
So gracious.
Thank you so much, Diipo, for sitting with me on the other side and being so vulnerable with us to talk about Unashamed. We wish you all the best. We cannot wait for this year's show. Please bring it out quickly. Thank you so much.
All right.
And that's our show for today. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode. Please follow us on social media. We're at HOTM TV on Instagram, Heart of the Matter channel, HOTM channel on YouTube, and we are Heart of the Matter on Facebook. See you next week.